even mentioned it yet, but the Harry Potter show exists, and apparently they're spending like a lot, like a lot of like a lot, like $1 billion or more on that show. The other day on TikTok, I saw a video that somebody else was responding to that I was like, do we need to just like say this stuff out loud? Because it was somebody saying that the Harry Potter story doesn't
Mhm.
have any transphobia in it. And I was like, what do you mean? There
Rita
is,
Skeeter.
Rita Skeeter. I write for the Daily Prophet.
yeah, there is so much. There is so much. Not only her, but like Remus Lupin is turned into a werewolf by an older man who breaks into his bedroom when he's a young boy.
Yeah, that's not transphobic necessarily, but that was definitely homophobic, which
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling, she pigeonholed Dumbledore as gay, never did anything with that in supplementary movies.
And he
That
just like grooms people.
Yeah, he's just a young boy.
And it's just, there's so much that I was like, okay, maybe we need to just like state that stuff outright for people who
Well,
haven't really thought about it like that. But I guess the thing with the Harry Potter show is something that exists, but nobody wants it.
mhm.
There's like maybe 6 people in the entire world that want that to exist, and there's probably a bunch of racists that think that it's great, maybe, but um who knows? But like that
Yeah.
is something that's being made, but that's not being made for teenagers. That's being made to finance transphobia litigation lawsuits to close down rape crisis centers that allow trans people to join.
Well, that too, plus the golden cast that J.K. Rowling was so proud of with the movies, all don't support her views anymore. I mean, some of them do, but like particularly Emma and Daniel have been very, very outspoken against her views.
Yeah.
And like Daniel, I did see say one positive thing about the remake. He's like, I'm glad if my kids ever want to watch Harry Potter, that they're not going to be watching me.
Yeah.
If there's a way for them to not watch me, that was pretty cute. But and this is not hate to the kids, of course, especially the kids, because what's happening here that they don't see, that a lot of people are rightfully mad at some of the adult actors for, is you are a pawn in J.K. Rowling's game here. She can't use her old actors as little puppet pieces because they don't agree with her. And so she's like, let me create a new cast that hopefully will grow up to still agree with me.
They were putting out, I guess, some sort of documentary thing about
Mhm.
the first season before the first season actually airs, and people are like trying to figure out why they would do something like that, like
Cash
marketing wise, because that's confusing to do. That's like backwards to what shows usually do. And I'm like, money. Everything they're doing is purely just for money. Warner Brothers is making this so they can try to make any sort of money off of this franchise that they bought and then immediately couldn't do anything with once J.K. Rowling made everything super clear about herself in 2020. And so they're just trying to make money. J.K. Rowling's trying to make money to destroy the world. And so they're putting out the documentary before the season comes out in the hopes that people will at least watch that, even if they won't watch the actual season.
Yeah.
It's just anything to make money, anything at all to make any sort of money at all. That's all. That's literally all it is. It's vapid. It's soulless. It's disgusting that it's
Mhm.
even happening. I feel really bad for any of the kids involved in it because they're little political pawns and have absolutely no idea. I judge the hell out of their parents for allowing them to be part of a production like this and either be brain dead to not realize what this production is doing to them or not care because they think that it will. None of these kids are going to become famous for playing these roles. People aren't going to associate them with this and they're not going to like them just for that one reason alone. And
Yeah.
they're just not gonna like it. They're never gonna be the people that people think of when they think of these characters. Like never. Never. They're never gonna supersede the original cast ever. They look like people cosplaying at a convention. Like they literally just look like people that are wearing knockoff costumes that they made themselves at home. It doesn't even look real because it feels like you're watching. I don't know. It feels like you're watching like you got high and turned on Harry Potter, but everything looks off and backwards and weird, but you can't figure out what's wrong with it. Like it just doesn't look right. Everything
Yeah.
doesn't look right because it's too much like the same that it just feels really weird that it looks like that because it's just for money.
Yeah. And I do just want to say, like, my stance on Harry Potter at this point is I get that it's a lot of our first fandom. Like, we've talked about that a few times, that a lot of us have a big love for it, just nostalgia wise. That's there. I mean, I freaking have Expecto Patronum inked on my skin. Like, there's no way I can deny that. Like, it was a comfort thing growing up. Before you realize she puts a lot of weird situations in women's bathrooms, and like Rita Skeeter kind of sounds like she's making fun of trans people and things like that. Even beyond her own words.
Yeah.
So, like, it's okay to still have nostalgia for it. But what you don't want to do is, especially if your goal is to help trans people, is to not put more money in J.K. Rowling's pocket to where it could potentially go to that fund, you know?
Hmm. Just give money to literally everyone else. The Percy Jackson kids on Twitter were like digging up every tweet from Rick of him saying that characters could be trans, anyone could be trans back in 2014, and 2015 and 2020 and every year since then.
Yeah.
um, and so there's a lot of other people like him, and there's also trans authors that
Yes.
are out there that have really great books. I have a Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas is supposed to be a really, really good series. It's also based on mythology that has trans characters in them, and he's also trans. And I have the book. I just haven't read it yet. Go buy their books, and
Yeah,
then tell somebody to make them into movies. They have to be better than Harry Potter.
exactly.
There's no way that they would be not as good.
Yeah. So SNL did a skit on the Severus being black thing. Essentially, the reason why Snape being black in this remake makes us uncomfortable is because a lot of the things that or not Percy, that Harry says about him are like, oh, I don't trust him. He seems shifty. Like, there's a lot of implied I just don't like him for some reason. I can't figure it out why. That feels different with the context of Snape being black.
Yeah. And people
Yeah,
are bringing up that, like, the flashbacks with James bullying him when he's the only
yes,
black person there. There's also the part in the first book that everyone thinks that Professor Quirrell, or whatever his name
Squirrel, yeah.
is weird because he's wearing a turban. Like, do we really want to go down this road?
Yeah,
Like, I don't think we do. And that's even just ignoring the fact that the whole story with the Dursleys is that Harry has to go back to their house all the time because his abusive family is actually secretly protecting him. Like, there is
like we haven't heard
nothing.
that one before.
There is nothing. There's nothing in these books in this story that isn't like horrendously just horrific because it was written by a fascist. Like,
Yeah,
that's why every story in those books is like that. It's all horrible because it was written by somebody who hates people. That's what happens when you hate people and you write a children's book series. You don't think that they think. The thing I was gonna say before is that it feels like the show is trying to copy what Percy Jackson did, but also mutate it disgustingly. Even with like the production, because the person who's in charge of HBO, I think, they're like scripted shows or whatever, said something about how, oh, it's not possible with a production like this to make a new season every year. And they're saying that to say that they're not going to film a new season every year and the kids are going to get, older
bigger.
because everyone becomes obsessed with them aging, of course. like they do with everybody apparently. But I was just like, am I supposed to pretend like this show doesn't exist? Like they're talking about how impossible that is when they just filmed season 2 and season 3 in back-to-back years. And so I'm like, it feels like you saw that that this show existed and was like, oh, I guess we can do that too. And just decided to do it, but then also is like, but we're not actually going to try that hard because they don't actually care. I know they don't care, but it was weird to hear them say that. And I was like, I don't want them to notice us, but it's also like, hello? Like, we're right here. We're right here. What do you mean that you can't film back-to-back seasons? They just did it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're talking about there. Besides, maybe they think they're special and that their seasons are even more super special because there's way more transphobia in them. I don't know. Was trying to say before that I got distracted by, of course, was that we're not ones. There's some people that like Percy Jackson that feel like, I don't know, that Harry Potter is like a boogeyman, that you can't bring it up and that you can't talk about it. And like, yes, if you talk about it to like promote it for existing, you shouldn't do that anymore for like everything we just said. But at the same time, I don't like how people don't talk about it at all when there's a lot of things to discuss that needs to be discussed about what they are doing. And like, you need to talk about that. Like, you need to talk about what J.K. Rowling's actually doing. I'm still waiting for other people who like classics besides you to acknowledge the fact that she is stealing the symbol from Athena to be a transphobic freak, when Athena like did not agree with that at all. Not that many people have even acknowledged that even happened, and it's still there. Like, the symbol is still her symbol for her organization to raise money to help people sue rape crisis centers for letting trans people go there. And so it's like there's a lot of things like that will come up because J.K. Rowling is a monster. And so when things like that come up, we're not afraid to talk about it. And I wish that more people would stop acting like she's too scary to talk about or that you can't talk. You should, especially around like kids who like Percy Jackson, when there's a lot of like similar people who like both or at one point liked both. Like, I started reading Percy Jackson because it reminded me vaguely of Harry Potter. And most people did at a certain point, like, had that reference point as a way to like understand or conceptualize the world, I guess, and then realize that this world is better than that one anyway. But it's still like, that's what we mean by like, we're not afraid to talk about it. We're not afraid to talk about what she's doing, what she's going to be putting these child actors through, what the story she even created even says, that she lied about being poor. I will never, ever get over.
You'll never let her live that one down.
J.K. Rowling once said she was as poor as it's possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. And she was lying through her heavily insured teeth. Well, she probably wasn't, like, lying, actually. Likely she's just never been poor enough to know how poor it's possible to get.
I feel like people think that if you just ignore her that she will go away, and that's obviously not working because she's like destroying the literal world. Like, how many anti-trans bills are like passing right now, and she has a huge part in that because she's J.K. Rowling, and she's giving these organizations money, and she's gonna have more money because there'll be some people that buy merchandise or that they're starting to sell again because they're making this show, no matter what we do about it.
Yeah.